Wer beginnt eigentlich? Philipp oder Felix? Oder?
Dietmar würde beginnen. Ich halte
Dietmar.
mich zurück. Genau. Es
Ja.
kann sein, dass wir auch schon online sind. Einen Moment.
Auf Englisch, ne?
Wer beginnt eigentlich?
Okay.
Philipp oder Felix? Oder?
Okay, wir müssten online sein.
Also auf dem Livestream online.
Genau.
Mhm.
Philipp, sag einfach Go.
Go. Okay, wir können starten, denke ich.
Ja, okay. Soll ich nochmal den Bildschirm stoppen, damit man uns am Anfang sieht?
Ja, vielleicht.
Ja, genau. Dann mache ich mal Stop Share. Gut.
Okay, then good evening, everyone. This is the online conference. My name is Dietmar Steiner. I'm co-founder of Atheist Refugees, founded by Rana Ahmed from Saudi Arabia, who is now a member of board, as well as Mahmoudul Munshi from Bangladesh, who is also a board member of Atheist Refugees now. And we today have an online conference about the situation and persecution of atheists in Nigeria, and especially the case of Mubarak Bala. And I will pass over this meeting then later to Dr. Felix Riedel, and he will lead the discussion tonight with Dr. Leo Igwe from Nigeria about these topics I just mentioned. So please, Felix, if you might continue.
Thank you very much, Dietmar. My name is Felix Riedel. I'm in contact with Leo Igwe since 2009. And I'm atheist and struggled in Western Germany with religion ever since. So the topic of African atheism is highly interesting, as it is quite frankly, it is neglected by social science mostly, which focuses on religion. So to give a short introduction, I will share my screen now, and just a broad generalization on African religion today and what it means for African atheism. We need to know first, religion in Africa is not a unified term. There is not one religion. We have a set of a lot of ethnic groups and therefore also religions. We can broadly generate traditional religion with the idea of a high God. It's very common, a creator, sometimes a deus otiosus, a resting God who is no longer interacting with humans, but who has representatives and emanations and shrines and objects. And this permeates a lot of ethnic groups in sub-Saharan Africa. We have esoteric concept of ritual power. This power is kept by mediums and shrine priests and executed by shrine priests. At the same time, we have the notion that individuals employ ritual power in sacrifices and rituals. So any individual can become his own ritualist. At the same time, we have a set of religious authorities in traditional religion. We also have monotheistic religions, Jewry arrived in Africa through the Arab Peninsula, Yemen mainly, and reached Ethiopia maybe between 1000 BCE and 300 CE, depending on speculation and sources. Christianity reached Ethiopia through Yemen, at least in 300 CE. So both of these religions arrived very early and arrived mainly through the east of Africa. Islam spread first in Somalia and Ethiopia, according to Muslim law, before the Hijra, even in 620 CE, so during the lifetime of Muhammad. And the earliest mosques there are indeed from the 8th century. In West Africa, Islam spread later, around 1000 CE, with the Almoravids in ancient Ghana, in the Kingdom of Ghana, which was more to the west than the country Ghana today. It first spread through traders who brought Islam with them, and later on we had a row of jihads, each promising a purified version of Islam, bringing slavery and misogyny, and sometimes also scripture and rituals and interaction and trade. We can generalize that today Sufism and Salafism are the main opponents inside African Islam, with fierce infighting, with Salafism thriving as an Islamic reform movement. We have several of those, sometimes sect-like, sometimes organized as Wahhabism from Saudi Arabia. And they all act comparable to the Christian Reformation. They bring literacy and Arabic. They teach the written word of the Quran, and therefore they spread with a certain level of enlightenment that comes along with literacy. They also spread an orthodox Quranism. So they spread the reading and understanding of the Quran, and therefore bind people to orthodoxy. That is the main conflict inside Islam today. We need to understand if we also want to understand why atheism is under fire. Atheism in Africa, we can assume that we had, like in any region of the world, we had a certain set of skepticism towards God and rituals that might have ever been present in individuals or among communities. We might have experienced a transfer of Greek thought into Africa. We don't have any sources for that, but it is highly likely that there was an exchange between Roman and Greek conquerors, and also into sub-Saharan Africa, which seeped into Black Saharan Africa. It's not hard to imagine and not unlikely. We have in the 20th century elites with academic training like Wole Soyinka that have developed secular and even atheist mindsets early on, just to say that their atheism is not something like a phenomenon of the last 20 years or so, but it has long traditions too. We had impacts like the execution of Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was also a critic of traditionalism, of religion, of authoritarianism, and he was executed by the Abacha regime on 10th November 1995. And there we also had already long started approaches towards something like humanism in Nigeria, but also throughout sub-Saharan Africa. The Humanist Association of Nigeria tried to gain formal recognition by the government since 2000 and succeeded only in 2017. So they waited 17 years for being recognized. Organized atheism indeed is just now starting new. We can say we have traditions in former secular circles, academic circles, but as a form of NGO activity or as a movement, it starts only recently. I want to say why solidarity matters. Atheism is in general by traditional Africans, by religious Africans, conservatives, is in general associated with general liberalism, with LGBTI rights and democracy. Therefore, opposing atheism often goes along with homophobia and authoritarianism, or at least conservatism and misogyny. Atheism means to the to the community, to the religious community, means disturbing the public peace. So therefore, atheists often don't have any social place where they are accepted. They are outsiders by any means. And therefore, they face disadvantages in their career. Academics as well as traders are expected to boost their networks through religion and also secret societies, which play an important role in Nigerian academic circles. If you belong to a secret society or the Pentecost religion or a certain church, you can rely on supporters, on career options. The same goes for Islam in the north. If you don't have these religious networks, you suffer disadvantages. Therefore, atheists need financial support and outside networks to compensate for this disadvantage. Atheists also face life-threatening situations like abduction, torture, murder attempts, and therefore atheists need a strong base of solidarity outside the countries of origin. Leo Igwe, with whom we talk right now, was born in 1970, raised as a Catholic. Later on, he studied theology and left at the age of 24, abdicating religion. His social activism is widespread, and one focus is for those who are accused of witchcraft and for maltreated children. For his activism, he suffered arrest several times in 2010. His father lost one eye after an attack of the police on his home, and he was again arrested and then even tortured in 2011. He publishes articles almost on a daily basis, including a manifesto for skeptics in 2012, and I Doubt, Critical Thinking and Skepticism in Africa in an Internet Age, published in 2017. He holds a PhD, which he gained in Germany, in Bayreuth, with his research on witch hunts in northern Ghana. And in 2017, he received the Distinguished Services to Humanism Award from the International Humanist and Ethical Union. So we are today concerned mostly with Mubarak Bala. Mubarak Bala was forcibly committed to a psychiatric institution in 2014 already, after he abdicated Islam and came out as an atheist. He was declared a mental case by his family and also by psychiatrists, and forcibly drugged. Only international pressure could force the Nigerian state to release Mubarak Bala in 2014. He is president of the Nigerian Humanists and was arrested just now in April 2020 in Kaduna for blasphemy after a Facebook post. He is now held without charge, and we have no form of contact with him at the moment. So we don't know if he is still alive, if he is in good health. And that is the main reason why we want to put pressure on the Nigerian government today, on the Nigerian public, to raise awareness and to ask, where is Mubarak Bala? Is he still alive? And that he is immediately freed. Sadly, the media coverage of Mubarak's case is still poor. This might be due to racist stigmatization of Nigeria and Africans in general, or as some resentment against the atheist cause in general. Therefore, we ask you to support the African atheist movement and show solidarity either through donations and or through actions. You can write to the Nigerian embassy or protest in front of the embassy in Berlin with the main question, where is Mubarak Bala? And demand free Mubarak Bala now. Your action might further include contacting the media and politicians in Germany or elsewhere to raise awareness. So I now hand over to Leo Igwe, who will introduce the Mubarak case at a closer look, and we will after that enter a more free form of a talk, so you can all ask or type into chat or YouTube comments, type questions, and we will read them aloud. A translation of this event will be provided later on with subtitles or in a script. If there is immediate demand for a translation now, we would also like to contact us just through chat, and we will then switch over to translation after each block. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Leo Igwe.
Yeah, thank you, Felix, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you all for organizing this event. Thank you, the Atheist Refugee Organization, for making this possible, and other friends in Germany and across the world who are tuning in. Yes, we have a situation in our hand here, and that is the case of Mubarak, who was arrested in April. But for us to really understand the context, I would like to share with you some kind of a background in terms of religion, atheism in Africa, then atheism versus religions in Nigeria and Africa, as the case may be. I will say a little thing about the witch hunts in Cross River, which is also a religious issue. Then we will now conclude by looking at the need for international solidarity and of course, what we can do to keep moving forward, not just as a generation, but also as a world. Well, like Felix has said, we have these three main religions. We have the traditional religion and the Christianity and Islam. I was born in the southeastern part of Nigeria, and so I grew up with a lot of Christianity and very little knowledge of Islam. Islam used to take place in the north. In Nigeria, we used to see it as a northern thing. And growing up in Nigeria, what we hear very often is fighting, violence, killing. Maybe at the time they say, oh yeah, people are running down the south, people are moving to the south because of some religious riot or some kind of killing. Either somebody threw Quran on the floor, or somebody said something they said was blasphemous, and the next thing you hear, they said that people are killing. So there's this impression, people have this kind of sense of fear, and have this impression that Islam is a violent religion. And of course, there are a lot of individual Muslims in Nigeria who are quite peaceful in the way they go about things, but very often they have allowed the violent, the fundamentalists, the Boko Haram kind of Muslims to really be the ones in the news and to really giving the Islam is the kind of image is hard. So, well, Islam, like Christianity, they were introduced from outside the country. So they were not just like traditional to us. We had all our different traditional religions, but Africa was brought into the world, more or less. What I mean by bringing into the world, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about the interaction between Africa and the rest of the world was characterized by conquest. Yes, at least in later part of life. By that I mean that the Arabs from the East, if I would say, then, and of course the Europeans from the West. So of course they came for trade, slavery, to colonize and take over cities, but also they came with their religion. Yes, and of course they looked down on the religions of Africans. Sometimes they call them voodoo, sometimes they say they're fetish. In fact, in Mali, a traditional religionist is called féticheur in French, féticheur. He's not called a priest, he's called a féticheur. Yeah, so that's that guy that does those fetish things, so.
Okay,
so
Leo,
yeah?
I will translate shortly what you have said so far, and then I will hand back to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Leo hat kurz einen Einblick in seine Biografie gegeben. Er ist aufgewachsen in Südost-Nigeria in einem sehr religiösen christlichen Setting und der Islam war zunächst sehr fern von ihm. Man konnte allerdings religiöse Gewalt und Fluchtbewegungen aus dem Norden bezeugen und in der Zeit politischer Unruhen war das auch der Alltag. Er sagt dann, dass Religion in Nigeria von Westen aus, von den Kolonisateuren zunächst nicht wirklich als Religion betrachtet wurde, sondern als Voodoo, als Fetischismus, also als Fetish Priest bezeichnet wurde und dass das grundsätzlich erstmal eine sehr abfällige Haltung zur traditionellen Religion beinhaltete. Okay, Leo.
Okay, good.
Sorry, Felix, could you also turn on your camera again, because this is because you are also part of the discussion. So sorry.
Okay.
Leo, please.
Okay. Yeah, good. So so growing up in Nigeria, you have the impact of this Christianity and Islam, because over the years they have succeeded in suppressing the traditional religion or making them, moving them to the margins. So because they treated the traditional religion as demonic, as evil, or as idols. So and sometimes the relationship between people of different religions have not always been cordial. And like I said, we used to have a lot of violence or violent conflict in the north between Christians and Muslims, but very often at the slightest provocation. And we often see the Muslims on the side of being the ones to become violent or to react violently whenever an issue comes up. And that is why most of the violent conflicts, religious conflicts we have had in Nigeria have always taken place in the north, where Islam is dominant.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and translate.
Mute. Okay, sorry. Ja. Der Einfluss von Christentum, Islam war im Wesentlichen die Dämonisierung der traditionellen Religion und daraufhin traten Islam und Christentum in einen permanenten Konflikt, der sich vor allem im Norden Nigerias abspielt. Und nach Leos Beobachtungen war es dabei vor allem der Islam, der die Rolle des Aggressors sehr häufig einnahm oder vorwiegend einnahm, um hier seine Überlegenheit zu demonstrieren.
Okay, now I'll give you a couple of examples in terms of these violent incidents. Like in the 80s, I was maybe about 12, 13, 14 years then. We heard that there was a movement called the Maitatsin that was sweeping across the north. And there were a lot of killing, not just only non-Muslim, but also Muslims who did not subscribe to their own form of Islam. And that led to the death of so many people, thousands of Nigerians. But at the end of the day, the government prevailed and they were able to suppress the movement. And in the 90s also, we have this particular case. He's a German evangelist, Reinhard Bonke. He's dead now. He was visiting Kano. And because the clerics, the Muslim leaders there they were not happy with it. They mobilized their members and they went to the streets and they killed so many people because they wanted the evangelist not to come. And eventually the man did not come and he did not hold the event there. So one more thing that happened in the 90s was also that a southern Christian called Gideon Akaluka, they said that he desecrated the Quran, or not even him, a family relative desecrated the Quran. They arrested him, put him in a police detention. But in the night, Muslim fanatics went and they broke into the place and brought him out and they cut off his head and put it on a stick and paraded it on the streets of Kano. So these are just 3 incidents, but I'll also continue with a few more examples.
Felix, your microphone is not open. Felix, could you please start over? The microphone is not open.
So, okay. Es gab mehrere gewaltsame Aufstände im Norden durch Muslime, mehrere Erweckungsbewegungen. Und Leo nannte ein Beispiel, eben ein deutscher Pastor namens Reinhard Bonke, ein sehr populärer Evangelist, also ein christlicher Pastor, hatte im Norden Nigerias großen Erfolg bei seinen Missionsbemühungen. Und das weckte den Unmut der islamischen Umgebung, sodass es auch hier zu Lynchmorden, zu Aufständen, zu Gewalt kam. Unter anderem wurde eben Bonke inhaftiert, wenn ich es richtig verstanden habe. Leo, was Bonke arrested?
No, Reinhard Bonke was visited Kano to organize a crusade, a religious feast. So
Yeah.
he wasn't arrested, but they started killing before he arrived, just to send a signal that he should go back. He shouldn't.
Ja,
he
okay.
shouldn't come to the city.
Also als Reinhard Bonke im Norden ankam, um ein Crusade, also ein Kreuzzug, das ist im Prinzip im subsaharischen Afrika nennt man diese Predigerzüge, nennt man Crusade in einem positiven Bezug auf die Kreuzzüge. Als er den ankündigte, gab es vorab schon Morde und Aufstände, um ihm zu signalisieren, dass er fernbleiben solle aus dem Norden Nigerias. Okay, Leo.
Yes. No, I also made mention about, I don't know, Gideon Akaluka, who was accused of desecrating the Quran. That was in 1995, 96. So they went and he was arrested, but they went and to the police station. They overpowered the police officers and brought him out and cut off his head and put it on a stick and paraded it on the streets of Kano. So we also have in the 2000s a woman, a female Christian teacher. She was also accused. They said that she dropped Quran on the floor or something because a student came into the class with a Quran and they were having an examination. So she took the bag and kept it by the side. They said, oh yeah, that she dropped it on the floor. She desecrated the Quran, and her students mobilized and lynched her in one of the states, Gombe in Nigeria. So we have had a couple of cases where even Muslims were accused of blasphemy, and sometimes they were sentenced to death by Sharia courts, or they were killed instantly in the market in Kano or in Niger State and in some of those Muslim-dominated areas. So Islam has this impression in Nigeria of a religion that is feared, because of the way Muslims react to anything they consider not in line with their religion or belief.
Felix, your microphone. Sorry.
Yeah. Leo, you mentioned someone in 1995, your first case?
That is Gideon Akaluka. Yes.
Gideon Akaluka.
Gideon Akaluka.
And what was he doing, or what was he accused of again?
He was accused of, it was actually a family relative was accused of desecrating the Quran, and eventually they ended up arresting him, not that relative. Yeah, he wasn't the person that did that, but it was either a wife or a family member that did it, but they ended up arresting him, and they took him to a police station. But in the night, the fanatics came there, overpowered the police officers, and brought him out from the police cell and cut off his head and put the head on a stick and paraded it on the streets. And nobody was arrested. Nobody was arrested up to today. Nobody was held accountable. Nobody was brought to justice as a result of that.
Yeah, okay. I understand that. Also 1995 wurde jemand aus Gideon Akalukas Familie beschuldigt, den Koran entweiht zu haben. Gideon wurde dann verhaftet, aber von einem islamischen Mob aus dem Gefängnis entführt und danach gelyncht und geköpft und sein Kopf oder seine Leiche wurde dann durch die Straßen von Kano getragen. Im Jahr 2000 wurde eine christliche Lehrerin beschuldigt, den Koran auf dem Boden fallen gelassen zu haben und es gab wieder Unruhen. Und ab da wurden auch immer öfter Muslime selbst wegen Blasphemie angeklagt. Deshalb hat Islam den Ruf einer furchteinflößenden Religion oder einer Religion, vor der man Angst haben muss innerhalb des nicht-islamischen Nigerias. Okay, Leo.
Yeah, so we've had other cases like that, you know, where people, non-Muslims, you know, are either killed or attacked at the slightest provocation. In fact, there was a journalist that was in early 2000. Nigeria was holding the World Beauty Pageant, and that and some Muslims were protesting. They were like, they didn't like it. They said it was a haram. It was forbidden to have women showing their bodies in public. And this journalist just wrote that, look, if Muhammad were to be alive, yeah, this Muhammad again, if he were to be alive, that he could choose a wife from one of the beauty pageants. That was all. And they started rioting. And one of the Sharia governors of a Sharia state, had to issue a fatwa, a kind of a death sentence, or anybody who sees this kind of person should kill the person. And eventually, Isioma Daniel, she had to flee. She fled Nigeria and is in one of the countries out there. So, but she was lucky. She escaped alive. Many people have not escaped alive. A woman in Kano made a comment when some Muslims were trying to do their ablution, that is their cleaning before they pray, around her shop. They said it was blasphemy, and they murdered the woman right there. So, and when the people, some suspects were arrested and brought to court, the state said, look, that they had no case to answer. So nobody was prosecuted, nobody was jailed, there's no punishment, actually, when people are killed for desecrating the Quran or for blasphemy. And that is exactly why we are worried when it comes to the case of Mubarak, whom I'm going to discuss in a few moments.
Okay. Leo ging kurz noch ein auf die Miss World-Unruhen in Nigeria 1999. Es sollte damals ein Schönheitswettbewerb stattfinden und dagegen gab es heftige Proteste in Nordnigeria und auch eine Fatwa. Es wurde den Teilnehmenden eben Gewalt angedroht und Steinigung. Und es kam auch mehrfach zu Übergriffen, zu Belästigungen, zu Unruhen. Was Leo beobachtete, war, dass es darauf keine staatliche Reaktion gab, dass die diese Unruhen stifteten, die Gewalt ausübten, immer straffrei ausgingen. Und genau das gibt äußersten Grund zur Sorge, wenn es gerade aktuell um das Schicksal Mubarak Balas geht. Leo?
Right. So, and I want to say that.
Sorry to interrupt, but
okay.
I'd like to point out we have a group chat here in the Zoom meeting, as well as a comment. You can comment on the live YouTube stream, which has a very bad delay, I think, of 2 minutes. But if you have some questions or whatever, please come forward. Sorry to interrupt. Leo, please.
Okay. Yeah. So, and we also have a situation whereby when issues come up in Nigeria, immediately you pacify the Christians and the Muslims. That's fine. So if you belong to the religious minority, if you are non-religious, they don't count. Nobody counts what you're saying, because there's always this feeling that if you are doing something, for instance, if we have the case of child rights, the Child Rights Act has not been domesticated by most of the states in the North because of the belief that you can give out a girl for marriage even as old as 7, 8, or 9 years. Now they have refused to rectify that. They also, Nigeria,
could you repeat that? Could you repeat that about the Child Act? What was the problem with the Child Act?
Yeah, what I'm saying there is that when it comes to policy issues, when it comes to policy debates, very often the debate is always dominated by religion and by the religious positions. They want state policies to be in line with the teachings of religion. Meanwhile, we are not a religious state. We are just a state whereby citizens practice different religions. But what we have noticed is that when there are debates, when it comes to the rights of homosexuals, the rights of children, the rights of women, it is often dominated and overwhelmed by those who want Christian or Islam or Christian and religious doctrines and positions to dictate and determine state policies and legislations. And that's why I gave an example with the Child Rights Act. Child Rights Act is a kind of is an international legal or human rights framework that tries to provide for a dignified treatment of children. Now, but this Child Rights Act has not been adopted by many states in the North because of the fact that these states are governed by Sharia and by Islamic position when it comes to children that allows them to marry, give out for marriage young girls as young as 7, 8, 9 years. So they have refused to adopt these child rights legislation because they think it's not compatible with what their religion preaches. That's one. Number two, the issue of homosexuals and their rights of homosexuals. Nigeria was able to pass this law partly because of the support, the overwhelming support from the Islamic establishment. And I attended one of the public hearings where an Islamic scholar who was there said that there was no debate when it comes to the rights of homosexuals in Islam. There was no debate. In fact, he went to the extent of saying that the few homosexuals in the country should be rounded up and killed. And, you know, so these are a kind of ways where sometimes people who represent religious institutions, Islam or Christianity, they come openly and make very outrageous statements when it comes to the rights of children or women or homosexuals, and they get away with it. So there's a lot of impunity when it comes to the way religious establishment relate with the state or relate with other citizens when it comes like non-religious people, minorities, or people of other religions.
Yeah, thank you. Also, es gibt eine weit verbreitete Erwartung in Nigeria, dass sich Politik und Gesetze gefälligst nach der Religion richten sollen. Und das betrifft vor allem die LGBTI-Rechte, die Frauenrechte und Kinderrechte, weil da die internationalen Gesetzgebungen und Richtlinien am stärksten in Konflikt mit religiösen Communities geraten. Das betrifft insbesondere die Kinderheirat in Nordnigeria, wo eben 9-, 10-jährige Mädchen verheiratet werden und das mit islamischer Gesetzgebung legitimiert wird. Als zweites Beispiel Homosexualität. Nigeria hat homophobe Gesetze erlassen und die konnten laut Leon nur durchgehen, weil die islamische Welt sich dahinter gestellt hatte und somit ein Gegengewicht zur westlichen Welt gebildet hat, die Nigeria dazu gedrängt hat, hier die Gleichberechtigung von homosexuellen und intersexuellen Menschen und Frauen denen gleiche Rechte zu gewähren. Als Fazit eben, religiöse Institutionen machen in Nigeria krasseste Forderungen, die hier als völlig zynisch und menschenfeindlich gelten würden, und sie kommen ungeschoren damit durch, ohne Konsequenzen befürchten zu müssen. Leo, would you be so kind and explain us the new law concerning homosexuality in Nigeria? What is the status quo?
Well, the status quo is that gay marriage is against the law. Actually, before that law was passed, homosexuality, is a crime. It was considered a crime. So this was another level of criminalization when it comes to a relationship between people of the same sex. So gay marriage is forbidden.
Yeah, and this law was new.
Yeah, it was passed, I think, in 2015.
2015, yes.
Yes.
And it exceeded, or it was worse than the law before.
Yes, it only reinforced the law that was there, because the law that was there only talked about homosexuality.
Yes.
It didn't talk about gay marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. So because it was a law to really kind of oppose the trend that was going on then in terms of gay marriage in the West and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did it also include homosexual propaganda like in Russia or in Uganda?
Yeah, well, I think they talked
like
about
criminal.
anything that could promote homosexuality or same-sex relationships. So if it's interpreted at the end of the day, it could include any other thing, including information or whatever they call propaganda when it comes to homosexuality. Yeah.
Also 2015 wurde ein Gesetz verschärft, das Homosexualität und insbesondere die homosexuelle Ehe unter Strafe stellt. Die homosexuelle Ehe wurde im ganzen subsaharischen Afrika als Blasphemie wahrgenommen, als Tabubruch mit traditionellen Institutionen in dieser Zeit, weil es eben internationalen Druck gab, die homosexuelle Ehe auch voranzubringen. Es wurde generell aber auch suggeriert, dass mit der Forderung nach Gleichberechtigung von Homosexuellen automatisch die homosexuelle Ehe eingeführt würde, was eben oft gar nicht unbedingt die erste Forderung von LGBTI-Organisationen war. Ja, Leo?
Okay, so the religious establishments are very strong. They are very powerful, and in fact, one of our former presidents, he's late now, he's from the north. He said, look, you cannot oppose Islam and succeed politically. So if you want to succeed politically, economically, if you want to succeed academically, if you want to succeed as an academic person, you have to make sure that you bow, you blindly follow the religious establishment. But this is, while this is a bit relaxed, it's not, when you compare Christianity and Islam, I think that of Islam is more extreme in the way it relates to people who either try to criticize it or those who try to say something that are not in line with Islamic teachings. So the Christianity is very influential in the South, while Islam is very much influential in the North. While in the South, people can actually criticize Christianity and get away with it. Like now, if what Mubarak is accused now, if I say here today that Jesus was a terrorist, some people might smile and wink at me and say, this man, you are going to hell. And that will be the end of the matter. So Christianity is more receptive of criticism, or what they call insult, but Islam is not. So people get easily riled up and they want to fight, they want to kill, they want to ban people. So we have a situation where the two religions are powerful, but they respond differently to criticism and critical comments.
Ja, also ein früherer Präsident sagte, dass der Islam politisch nicht konfrontiert werden kann, sondern man müsse sich ihm auf allen institutionellen Ebenen an der Universität, im Handel und so weiter unterwerfen, dem religiösen Establishment. Während im Süden das Christentum auch sehr, sehr stark ist und es alle gesellschaftlichen Fasern durchdrungen hat, kann man trotzdem im Süden Nigerias das Christentum kritisieren und damit davonkommen. Das Christentum sei besser auf Kritik eingestellt, während man im Norden eben sofort mit dem Leben bedroht sei, wenn man Kritik am Islam äußert. Das heißt, Der Islam im Norden Nigerias ist wesentlich rigider und kritikunfähiger und dadurch auch gefährlicher für die Atheisten, die in Dissens damit treten. Leo?
Good. So this is why now it is always a very big challenge for those who do not subscribe to this religion, like those atheists, agnostics, free thinkers, or people. There are a lot of Nigerians who tell you, look, I don't belong to any. They just don't understand any of this. So it is always difficult for these people to come out openly to identify themselves as atheists because of the consequences, the impact it could have on them in terms of their job, in terms of their political career, in terms of their business, and also in terms of their life, depending where they are living. So we in Nigeria now, we have those who are, many of the atheists who are out are in the south. So while in the north, they are underground. And there have been much underground, and there has never been somebody who was out there openly speaking, talking as an atheist, criticizing Islam, just like many atheists in the South criticize Christianity. Until now, we came to the case, until Mubarak now came out and renounced Islam and all that. So what we saw in Mubarak is something unprecedented, because most of the atheists there, they go underground. They don't come out with their face, with their real name. And of course, that was what was okay for the Islamic establishment, because there's always this impression they want to create that, yes, either people are Muslims or they live according to the dictates of Muslims.
Ja, also bislang war es eigentlich die Regel, dass Menschen, Freidenker, Agnostiker, Atheisten oder auch einfach Nonkonformisten, Leute, die nicht dazugehören wollten, dass die im Untergrund lebten, in dem Sinne, dass sie ihre Haltung im Alltag verheimlichten und das höchstens anonym im Internet austauschten. So, was mit Mubarak Bala jetzt neu eintritt, ist, dass Leute das erste Mal mit ihrem Gesicht und mit ihrem Klarnamen an die Öffentlichkeit treten und sich zum Atheismus bekennen oder zu Zweifeln bekennen, den Islam in Zweifel ziehen. Und das ist eine neue Situation. Und da lese ich jetzt daraus, da ist eine große Gefahr eben, dass man nicht weiß oder dass man das Schlimmste befürchten muss in den Reaktionen des konservativen Islam in Nordnigeria auf diese Coming-Outs, auf diese Bewegung, darauf, dass Leute ihr Gesicht und ihren Namen zeigen, wenn sie in Dissens mit dem Islam treten. Leo?
Yeah, so that was why in 2014, I was studying in Germany then. So I got this information that an ex-Muslim was in a mental hospital, and that the family took him to a mental hospital because he renounced Islam, and they said he had a mental problem, and they asked me to help to campaign for his release from the mental hospital. So that was how Mubarak came into the scene. He came into the scene as an ex-Muslim who was regarded as a psychiatric patient by the family. And they took him to a psychiatric hospital so that they could, through the treatment, maybe cure him of atheism and, of course, get him back to Islam. So we campaigned, and he got eventually released. And since he got released, he has been very outspoken in terms of trying to highlight the excesses of the Islamic establishment, Muslim extremism, and more especially, he comes from the region where Boko Haram militants have been active. And he has been using his posts on Facebook and his presentation to highlight why Boko Haram continues to operate in that region and the things that could be done to make sure that these jihadists, are defeated and uprooted from that region.
Mhm. Also Mubarak Bala wurde zwangspsychiatrisiert in 2014. Da war Leo gerade in Deutschland und hatte dort sein Promotionsstudium absolviert. Und da hatte Leo dann gehört von einem nigerianischen Atheisten oder Ex-Muslim, der in die Psychiatrie eingewiesen wurde von seiner eigenen Familie, weil die Familie von Mubarak Bala nicht akzeptieren konnte, dass er sich vom Islam lossagt, hat sie ihn eingewiesen. Er wurde dort dann vom Psychiater mit dem offiziellen Statement, dass verrückt sei, wer nicht an Adam und Eva glaube, auch zwangsmedikalisiert, also mit Medikamenten behandelt gegen seinen Wunsch. Und erst nach einer internationalen Aktion von Atheisten und Humanisten weltweit wurde Mubarak Bala dann freigelassen. Und seitdem hat er eben sich öffentlich immer wieder geäußert. Also er hat das zum Anlass genommen, sehr viel stärker an die Öffentlichkeit zu treten und wurde zu einem scharfen Kritiker von Religion und insbesondere vom Islam, und das selbst in einer Region und in einer Zeit, in der Boko Haram dort sehr aktiv war.
Yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
Some of his posts have not been going down well with many people. They have not been happy with him, with some of the things he was saying and some of the posts he was making and some of the comments, he was issuing, and they have been issuing death threats, and in reaction, they have been threatening to kill him. So before now, I mean, in the past years, he has received death threats from so many Muslims in the region who were saying that if they see him, that they would kill him. They informed me about 3 days before his arrest. I called him to ask him if we could report to the police. Well, he told me it will make the matters worse because he said that some of the people actually issuing the death threats were police officers. Some of them were soldiers. So it will make things worse. He might actually be handing himself over to the people who will eventually kill him. So he just told me that the whole thing will die out on its own. So, but eventually, about 3 days after we had that discussion, I got a telephone call that he had been arrested. And after a day in Kaduna, they took him to Kano, where we believe he is at the moment. And they have not allowed him to see a lawyer. They have not produced him in a court. They have not actually respected his constitutional rights, to have access to a legal representation and also be charged in a court. So they just held him incommunicado, and he's getting to 2 months since he was arrested. He was arrested on April 28th, and by June 28th, that will be 2 months since he was arrested, and he has not been formally charged in a court. He has not been given access to a lawyer.
Mhm. Also, einige von Mubarak Balas Facebook-Posts erzeugten viel Ärger und Unruhen und vor allem auch Morddrohungen. 3 Tage vor seiner Verhaftung wurde er nochmal gefragt, ob er die Morddrohungen nicht doch zur Polizei bringen wolle, ob er sie nicht doch anzeigen wolle. Und da hatte Mubarak Bala noch gesagt, das würde die Sache nur schlimmer machen, er würde nicht zur Polizei gehen. 3 Tage später wurde er selbst dann von der Polizei verhaftet und also 3 Tage später hatte Leo den Anruf gekriegt, dass Mubarak Bala wieder verhaftet worden sei, und er durfte keinen Anwalt sehen. Seitdem, er hat keine Anklage gesehen. Ich glaube, eine Legitimation der Polizei dafür war Corona. Und er hat bislang keine rechtliche Vertretung. Er wurde am 28.04. verhaftet und seitdem nicht angeklagt. Leo?
Yeah, so the goal is not just maybe to actually prosecute him because he committed a crime. They want to silence him. They want to clamp down on what they call the rise of atheism. Because before now, in November, they organized a seminar in one of the universities where they were discussing social media and the rise of atheism in northern Nigeria. Because a lot of people were uneasy about how social media have given access to a lot of young people there in terms of information and connection, and again has moved them away from being blind followers of the clerics and ulamas and liberated them from their control, from their autocratic and dictatorial control in terms of information and what they read and how they access knowledge. So they have been very much on ease with it. And young people are beginning to ask questions and beginning to challenge some of these clerics. And they think that it is, at the end of the day, social media were encouraging atheism. So they have organized that. And Mubarak has been seen as the face of atheism in northern Nigeria. So they want to silence him. They want to neutralize him. They want to make sure that they nip in the bud the atheist movement in that region.
Mhm. Also, das Ziel ist, Mubarak Bala mundtot zu machen. Das ist die einzige Erklärung für dieses Vorgehen. Mubarak Bala hatte zuletzt ein Seminar an der Uni organisiert. Da gab es Diskussionen über den Aufstieg des Atheismus in Nordnigeria. Es gab auch Reaktionen in den sozialen Medien durch christliche Organisationen darauf, durch islamische Organisationen. Auf einmal wurde der Atheismus in Nordnigeria zu einer Art Schreckgespenst aufgebauscht. Und ein Grund dafür ist, dass Atheisten eben soziale Medien nutzen können, um viel leichter jungen Menschen ein Angebot zu machen, das religiöse Denken zu überwinden und die Diktatur der Religion zu verlassen. Und das ist der Grund, dass Mubarak Bala verhaftet wurde. Man wollte hier schon im Ansatz, im Keim, eine mögliche Bewegung ersticken. Leo?
Yeah. So what happens is that Mubarak did not only renounce Islam, which is a crime. Apostasy is a crime under Sharia law. He also went on to criticize, say things that are critical of the religion, which is blasphemy. Because with apostasy, by criminalizing apostasy and blasphemy, this was how the Islamic establishment held atheists and atheism hostage in the north. So people are not allowed to express their views as atheists because if you come out as an atheist, it means you have renounced the religion. You are a criminal because you are an apostate under Sharia law, and the penalty is death. And even if you come out, even if you say that, even if for some reason you are an apostate, you can't say anything. You can't say, okay, I left Islam because of X, Y, Z, because I don't believe in X, Y, Z, and all that. Immediately you say it, they say, oh, you are also critical, you are blasphemy, you are insulting the religion, so you are going to die for that. So with apostasy and blasphemy, the Islamic establishment has held it.
Okay, wir haben eine kurze Unterbrechung. Das geht sehr wahrscheinlich gleich vorbei. Leo hat uns das vorher angekündigt. Es kann sein, dass wenn er angerufen wird.
Hostage. So what we
okay, Leo, could you repeat the last minute or so? Because there was an interruption in the connection.
Yes, there was a call.
You noticed it. Okay, all right. Yeah. If you could repeat that part, please.
So what I'm saying is that they are using apostasy and blasphemy to hold atheists and atheism hostage. Mm-hmm. So many people who are atheists, they cannot come out and identify as atheists, because identifying as atheists means that they have renounced their identity as Muslims or as those who belong to Islam, okay? Which is a crime. And it is a crime punishable by death, okay? Now, even when you do that, let's assume for some reason you are an apostate, you shouldn't actually openly say anything. You couldn't come and publicly tell people about your views and all that. They will call that blasphemy, which is also a crime punishable by death. So you have death, a crime punishable by death waiting for you. Immediately you try to come out as an atheist in that region. So this is exactly what Mubarak has done. He came out as an apostate or as an ex-Muslim, and he tried also to be critical of the religion. So, and what they are trying to do now is to suppress, to silence, and to make sure that nobody tries to do that. In other words, that atheists still remain hostage. They still remain, suppressed, and they still remain underground in the region.
Mhm. Also auf Apostasie steht schon eigentlich nach der Scharia die Todesstrafe oder zumindest sehr hohe Strafen. Und Mubarak hat eben nicht nur den Islam verlassen und sich dadurch der Apostasie schuldig gemacht, sondern dann auch noch der Blasphemie, indem er den Islam öffentlich kritisiert hatte. Also Leo kam es jetzt sehr darauf an, nochmal zu verdeutlichen, dass den Islam verlassen das eine ist, es ist bereits sehr gefährlich, und was Mubarak Bala eben gemacht hat, ist, dass er da noch den Islam kritisiert hat, und das ist etwas, was als Blasphemie dann gehandhabt wird und mit dem Tode bedroht wird. Also soll an Mubarak Bala ein Exempel statuiert werden, dass nicht andere auf diese Idee kommen, und dann, ja genau, dadurch sollen eben Atheisten in held hostage, in mentaler Geiselhaft oder in Stummheit gehalten werden. Sie sollen stumm gemacht werden, vorsorglich. Genau. Also er wertet Mubarak Balas Fall als ein Exempel an Atheisten allgemein.
Yeah. So what happens is that now, since he was arrested, many of the people who have been angry, who have been upset, who have not been very happy with him and the fact that he renounced Islam, or he went about making it normal, because what he was doing was that making it people think it's normal to leave. Please leave if you are not convinced. So he went around. A lot of people were not happy about it. And what are those people saying? They are now saying that, look, that they try to say that atheists, the atheists, of course, are disturbing the public peace. And what they're doing is threatening the safety and peace and order in the community. Because what are their two reasons? They say that atheists blaspheme. In other words, atheists insult religion. Or they do what they call the disrespect religion. And they try to go to the criminal provision in our own, what we call secular, not the Sharia part of the law, but the secular law says, insulting religion, is a crime under that. But the law did not actually define what does insulting religion mean. They didn't even define which religion is to be insulted, or which one is, what does it. So the challenge here is, how do you actually interpret that column? So what they're saying is that, yes, that we are breaking the law by saying what we think about religion or religious prophets. Number two, they say that we ridicule religious beliefs. So these are the two accusations they have made. And this is why they are angry. And now, it is still the same thing. If we cannot say what we think about religion, then how do we actually express as an atheist? So they want atheists to keep quiet. Even if you are an atheist, please keep quiet. In fact, people came to my Twitter and they were telling me, please leave our Islam alone. Face your atheism, do your atheism, okay? But to be an atheist sometimes is to also say you don't believe in this God, and this is why you don't believe in that God. So what they are expecting is for atheists not to say anything about religion, or not to say anything they think it is that will make them angry or that they think is ridiculing their beliefs. So these are their main accusations, that we blaspheme and that we ridicule their religion. And for that atheists should be prosecuted, they should be arrested and put in jail.
Ja. Also Mubarak Bala hat die Kritik normalisiert und auch die Apostasie normalisiert durch seine Facebook-Posts. Und dadurch wurde er eben zum öffentlichen Ärgernis. Die eine Anklage ist eben Respektlosigkeit gegenüber Religion, die man häufig dann erfährt als Atheist. Und die zweite Anklage ist, Religion lächerlich zu machen und sich darüber lustig zu machen. Und das kennen wir auch aus dem Karikaturenstreit zum Beispiel. Dieses Verhältnis zur, diese Angst vorm Lächerlichen. Leos Frage ist dann, ja, wenn man nicht über Religion sagen darf, was man will, was kann man dann machen? Man bleibt dann eben ruhig und geht in die Isolation und fürchtet sich eben vor einer weiteren Verfolgung. Leo?
Yeah, so this is exactly where we are at the moment. So all the religious establishments now, they have gone quiet. They have not actually come out to condemn the arrest. They have tacitly behind those who made the petition, and they are not coming out to say anything to for the world to understand, okay, what did this man do? What offense did he commit? And you know what they have done? They have approached a court in Kano where they tried to they made a statement that, yeah, he insulted religion and he committed a form of cybercrime, but they have not actually produced him in that court. They only use that as a way to keep him in police custody, and he's getting to 2 months. So what we are trying to do now is this. The Nigerian police should tell us, first of all, where he is. Is he alive or dead? And if he's alive, produce him in a law court and charge him. So, but they have not done any of this. So they keep giving us excuses. The lawyer was there the first day. They said, okay, I should come back another date. He came back, he said, okay, we're going to see Mubarak. They said, no, today they will say the police prosecutor is sick. The next day, oh, the magistrate had an accident. They said, okay, he has to make a written application. The next time they said the written application will be considered another week. Oh, the magistrate will not be in court. They're giving us one excuse after another, delaying the process and keeping Mubarak behind bars and sending the message that nobody should actually try to do what Mubarak has done. That is renounce Islam and come out openly to express his mind and live his life normally as a free thinker, as an atheist, and as a humanist.
Also Mubarak Bala wird weiter der Kontakt zur Außenwelt verweigert. Die Polizei erfindet jeden Tag eine neue Ausrede. Mal ist der Staatsanwalt nicht zu Hause oder hat Urlaub oder es gibt irgendeine andere Störung. Und damit soll die ganze Sache eben verzögert werden und Mubarak Bala vor allem durch diese verlängerte Haft bestraft werden. Das Gericht in Kano wurde die anderen nigerianischen Institutionen leisten schweigend Beihilfe. Es gibt eben keine interne Reaktion in Nigeria auf diese Verhaftung. Es wurde sogar das Gericht in Kano offenbar von anderen Institutionen kontaktiert, um Bala weiter irgendwie mit irgendwas zu belasten. Und ein beliebter Vorwurf ist eben Internetkriminalität, die es tatsächlich sehr häufig gibt und die man eben nach Beliebigkeit dann auch an jemanden heranwerfen kann. Aber Mubarak Bala hat eben immer noch keine einzige offizielle Anklageschrift erhalten und es gibt keine Anklage. Leo?
Yes. So the case of Mubarak Bala is just one of those cases that has illustrated the challenges we're facing in Nigeria. But I want to also make a brief reference to another very serious challenge we are having in Nigeria before I get back to the case of Mubarak, which is witch hunting. the idea that some people who claim or who suspect that others are harming them through witchcraft, they will go into communities, they will attack and kill the people who they suspect of witchcraft. We had a recent case in Cross River in southern Nigeria, where a local politician, he had a dream that the mother and the uncles, that they were trying to kill him. And he brought some witch hunters to the village, and they went from house to house, dragged these people out, beat them up, and threw them into fire. 3 of them have died. And about 10 others are struggling with their lives with various degrees of burns right now. So this illustrates sometimes the power that religion gives to people who believe to do whatever they want to do to others. But I don't want us to dwell on this for now, but I just want us to understand that, yeah, while we're having this problem in the north, where Islam is being used to oppress and persecute free thinkers and atheists, we also have a challenge in the north where religion is also making it difficult for people, or making it difficult for us to stop witch persecution. So it is not just like a problem with Islam. We also have a problem in the Christian-dominated areas with witch hunting, and also with other, not necessarily extreme oppression and maltreatment of atheists.
Ja, also Atheisten sind nicht nur selbst mit Leib und Leben bedroht, sobald sie sich dazu bekennen, sondern sie müssen eben auch in Nigeria anderen Opfern von religiösem Fanatismus noch beistehen. Und ein neueres Beispiel sind Hexenjagden. Es gab gerade eine Hexenjagd im Cross River State. Da hat ein Mensch geträumt, er würde von Hexen angegriffen, er sei krank gemacht worden von Hexen, und daraufhin wurde ein Hexenfinder mit seinen Jüngern gerufen, und dieser Hexenfinder hat dann dafür gesorgt, dass über ein Dutzend Menschen ins Feuer gestoßen wurden, und 3 Menschen sind verbrannt, an ihren Verbrennungen gestorben. 10 weitere Opfer kämpfen eben ums Überleben oder leiden eben an schwersten Verbrennungen. Damit möchte Leo illustrieren, die regionsübergreifende Macht von religiösen Fanatikern, die im Bewusstsein leben, tun und lassen zu können, was sie wollen, ohne Angst vor Konsequenzen zu haben. Das ist eben regional übergreifend. Das betrifft nicht nur den Norden, auch wenn die Situation im Norden Nigerias durch den islamischen Fanatismus nochmal sehr speziell ist. Aber er möchte das eben diversifizieren, hier auch die vielen Herausforderungen darzustellen, die sich für Atheisten in ganz Nigeria darstellen. Leo?
Yes, so we have a situation where atheists, are facing challenges in the north and in the south, and a lot of people, religious fanatics, are trying to eliminate them. They're trying to suppress them. They want them to leave, behave and go hiding, not actually speaking out, because when they speak out, they accuse them of blasphemy, or when they come out, they accuse them of apostates, and they accuse them of insulting religion. So they have made it difficult for atheists to come out and be part of the society. So, and that is why I think that at this moment, we need international support and solidarity from atheists across the world. And we need this because, first of all, we also need to work in our different countries to normalize atheism. Yes. And we want to live and work in our different countries to reduce the risk, the stigma linked to atheism. And I would like to say, comparatively, we want to make sure that people who come out as atheists in Muslim-dominated communities are not thrown into prison. Yeah, or are not killed. This is outrageous. And we should not, by any pretense, sit somewhere and thinking that, okay, yeah, this is a Nigerian problem or this is an African problem. This is a challenge facing not atheists, not only in Nigeria, but around the world. So I am proposing an international solidarity movement in the light of what is going on with atheists in Nigeria, bearing in mind the implication, local, regional implication, this persecution, as we have seen in the case of Mubarak, could have not only on atheists in Nigeria or in Africa, but atheists in Muslim-dominated areas. Because in those places, they're killed. We saw the situation in Bangladesh. And we have seen the way Mubarak Bala's case is going. We have to come out with ways to make some of these societies and countries to understand that to be an atheist is not to be a criminal. And to renounce Islam is not a form of death sentence. This is the situation as we have it now. And they have implications when it comes to the lives of people. When it also comes to migration and the refugee problems and challenges we are facing across the world. I think that we are happy with the Atheist Refugee Network and the work atheists are doing to at least provide some kind of safe space or support to atheists who are at risk. But while we appreciate that, it is important that we come up with more creative ways to help atheists address the problems in their countries. Like now, atheists in Nigeria, we cannot all flee Nigeria. Yeah, and look at the situation we have today. We have the pandemic. There are no international flights. So it is either we stay here and die or nothing else. So we must make it a priority to support atheists in some of these places so that they can contain this risk and use international solidarity as a resource to help them address this problem. Free Mubarak and free other atheists who are living under fear, who are being oppressed, and get the Islamic establishment to understand that atheists are human beings and the lives of atheists matter, just like the lives of Muslims matter.
Ja, also wir brauchen dringend eine internationale Solidaritätsbewegung auf der ganzen Welt. Und wir brauchen das zuallererst, weil eben die Atheisten in ihren eigenen Ländern kämpfen und arbeiten müssen, um das Stigma zu reduzieren, das mit dem Atheismus einhergeht. Wir müssen sicherstellen, dass Menschen, die ihr Coming-out als Atheisten in muslimischen Regionen haben, sicher sein müssen, nicht ermordet zu werden. Und das ist eine globale Herausforderung, eben so wie in Bangladesch, wie in Nordnigeria. Wir müssen auch mit Strategien herauskommen, wie wir verhindern, dass das Coming-out für Atheisten zur Todesstrafe wird. Wenn wir uns die Migrationsthematik anschauen, dann sind wir sicherlich froh über Asyl für Atheisten, aber wir brauchen mehr Strategien dahingehend, wie wir Atheisten eben in ihren eigenen Ländern schützen können, sodass sie dort arbeiten und das Stigma reduzieren können. Die Situation in Nigeria ist aktuell besonders schwierig mit der Corona-Pandemie, weil man eben kaum eine Wahl hat als Atheist. Man kann nicht einfach fliehen, man bleibt im eigenen Land und ist eben mehreren Lebensgefahren ausgesetzt. Aber gerade deshalb fordert Leo abschließend dann Freiheit für Mubarak, Freiheit für alle Atheisten und Atheist Lives Matter, also die Leben von Atheisten sind auch wichtig. Leo, should we enter? Thank you very much for your input. We will now open for any specific questions from the audience. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Also haben wir irgendwelche Fragen an Leo?
Until now, I can't see any questions in the YouTube chat or here in the chat of the Zoom. No Zoom chat questions. But thank you, Leo, for suggesting working on an international strategy, build a network, which is quite difficult to do, but we have to start somehow, and we should also continue this discussion. What would be the proper steps to make it easier for atheists in countries like Nigeria or Bangladesh to come out with free thinking ideas without risking their lives or the lives of their families. So yeah, there would be lots of options to do so. Is there a question? What will it make easier for atheists? There are not many options for atheists in those countries, but we have to figure out how we can support each other. We do not have a department and no governmental support in other countries. Actually, the atheist refugees we have here in Germany was founded because the threats of people who left their country because of apostasy, the threats still continue in Germany, and it is not easily recognized that they are atheists and that atheism is a reason to flee the country, the family, and leave everything behind. So what can we learn from that? I think we need to build an international network, collect data of events, somehow to quantify the problem, but also to fill with concrete anecdotes, which is the single cases like Mubarak Bala, or what also was your experience, Leo. So to put these information to international networks of like politicians, but also there is other help, aid charity going on. We give them the information. They put it into the public, and the more and more it becomes most people don't even know that there is a problem. And we could, with names and faces and events, point out there is a problem. And it's not just some single individuals, but there is also a movement going on. Mm. At least that's my impression.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I want to say quickly is this. First of all, data, collection of data. I want to let you know that many people don't want to become data. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mubarak is a form of data now. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
No, many people don't want to be like Mubarak. Yeah, you get it. So because a lot of people, let us also not forget the fact that even like religious people, many of them don't want to die because they know it's extreme. There is some kind of middle ground. Immediately you become data, you are dead. You get it. So that is it. We don't want, I think we can be proactive by not actually allowing people to get to the situation where Mubarak is now before we can actually put in place mechanisms that we can use to address this. Yes, where Mubarak is now, many atheists in Africa don't want to be, they just don't want. I have friends who have told me, look, I don't want to be a hero, okay? I don't want to be a hero. Yeah, so they are ready to say all sorts of things to please the religious people so that they don't become like Mubarak. So we need to understand this, because let us know that, yeah, becoming an atheist is a challenge, is dangerous, is risky. And if we have some data already, we should start working with that. We shouldn't expect more, because many people will want not to be, they won't want to become data like Mubarak. So I think this can help us. But I understand the importance of having data in trying to make cases for support or change policies and all that. But it is also important to let people understand that in Muslim countries, the data space is very small. Yes, because if you come out as an apostate, you are a dead person. If you come out as a blasphemer, you are dead. So you will be dead. You'll be only data when you are dead. And many people don't want that. Okay? Yeah. So let us look at this situation and sometimes come up with mechanisms or programs to make sure that people don't get to the point of becoming data as such. Let's just use the data we have today. That is, you quote, Mubarak and a few others.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for this. But I think it always starts small. There is the first mover, and then step by step things can change. Yeah. But this is different in different countries. For example, the first actually we got to know about was Rana Ahmed, when she had to run away from Saudi Arabia. There's also a death sentence on apostasy. She had to run away, then came to Germany and found the same problem here again. She first felt like she never had left Saudi Arabia because she was with other refugees and they were praying as mad, and she was thought she was in a liberal secular country, but didn't work out. So when we got her to know, she said, I want an organization. And now the organization is here. And now we have more and more people coming out. We see on the social media, there is more and more happening. Warud Zuhair is actually the nightmare of the Arabic Islamic speaking world, because she's doing action all the time. And the first, she was threatened with the worst you can think of. Yeah. But now it's more like, I don't know, 50-50, because there is many supporters who say, yeah, that's great what you're doing. This is very dangerous, because she lost lots of her health because of her brother. He was beating her. Now she is nearly paralyzed, but she is fighting, keeping on fighting, but now she's in Germany. Yeah. So I understand, Leo, that the situation is different in Nigeria, because it's, I think, way more difficult to come from Nigeria to Germany and or into some space, a safe space where they can keep on with their actions. Yeah.
So, Dietmar, could you repeat the name of the Arab activist you mentioned for the audience?
The first one was Rana Ahmed. She also wrote a book. She's from Saudi Arabia. And the other one is Warud Zuhair. She is from Karbala. This is the Shia holy center, let's say, from the Shia Muslims. And she comes from a very high religious family who are very influential. And yeah, Warud Zuhair is doing most action right now, but now it's becoming more and more. I don't know. I think there's two activists is okay for now here, because we have lots of them. erklären.
Ja, okay, ich übersetze das ganz kurz den Zwischenstand. Also Dietmar fragte, ob man mit mehr Daten und Dokumentation eben langsam ein Problembewusstsein wecken kann. Und Leo dachte, dass es sicherlich nützlich ist, Daten zu sammeln, aber dass es hier auch vor allem darum geht, proaktiv zu werden und eben zu verhindern, dass Leute überhaupt zu einem Datensatz oder zu einem Fall werden. Also dass jetzt eben im Moment Atheisten Angst um ihr Leben haben und man jetzt sicherstellen muss, dass sie nicht zu Opfern werden. Ich nehme jetzt die nächste Frage aus dem Chat. I take the next question from the chat. Leo, what options would you suggest, specific options? Would you see any option to for atheism as asylum, as a cause for asylum? How can European atheists support African atheists and humanists, especially the ones who are now in danger, who are in specific situations of danger?
Yeah, yes, I must say, like I said, I must commend all those who are behind the Atheist Refugee Network. And I say thank you so much for that initiative. Is one way to respond to the problem, because eventually there are some of them, like in this case now, I think Mubarak has gotten into that stage where, because they asked me maybe if we could have Mubarak have him to come relocate to the southern Nigeria. I said no, because the people who are looking for him, they don't need visas to come to southern Nigeria, and not just attack him, but also attack the person who is taking care of him. So this is an opportunity where we can use some of our international refugee network to really address the problem, move him away to a safe location for a while, and all that. So, but
wait one moment, Leo. You recommend to bring him back to South Nigeria?
No, we were discussing when they got arrested. We were having the discussion with diplomats and policymakers, and they said, okay, why not? Maybe if we release him, we have him somewhere in the south. Now, and I said that, look, those who want him will get him anywhere. Yeah, you said whether in the south or anywhere in the south, because they don't need visas.
Yeah,
they don't need visas to come there.
So we are now in a situation where bringing him to South Nigeria is no longer practicable. Because his killers or his persecutors won't have
there's no restriction.
They can travel to the South Nigeria and find him.
That
is what you're afraid of.
And they will not just attack him, they will also attack those who are taking care of him. So it has become an extreme situation. The situation of Mubarak when it comes to relocation, support and assistance locally is become extreme. So what we are saying is this is when we can tap into our international refugee program to really address it. But we should also, understanding the situation in these countries, we should not allow the situation of atheists to get to the stage of Mubarak. We can come up with some other mechanisms. Number one, inclusiveness when it comes to religious conferences and religious programs. Very often, when international governments when they want to discuss anything in religion, they just pick one bishop, one imam. That's all. No. They should also know that atheists should be represented. Because the more we put pressure on our government to come up with a more inclusive mechanism when it comes to the discussion of religion and its impact on society, the more we begin to get into the minds of these people that, in quote, atheists are also stakeholders when it comes to issues. So I think that, like today, there are still conflicts between Muslims and Christians. Okay, we are still having that. They're still killing many Christians in the southern Nigeria. But the fact there is that when there are such discussions, they bring their leaders. They include their leaders. But here in Nigeria, it took us about 17 years to even get registration as an NGO. And I'm even working on registering another organization now. And I don't know how many years it's going to take me for them to approve it. Because the people who are doing this are religious people who think that the only thing that matters is Christianity and Islam. Punct. There's no other thing that matters. It's only these two religions. So it is important we begin to send the message of inclusiveness to the European Union, to the UN, to African Commission, so that we should not just be having atheists as refugees. We should also have atheists in a lot of international committee discussing not only refugee, but also discussing issues concerning religion and the world.
Ja. Also, Leo ist, ganz kleinen Moment, ich übersetze das kurz, okay?
Gut.
Ja, also Leo betont nochmal, dass Mubarak in einer Situation ist, die auswegslos ist, die extrem ist. Man hat diskutiert, also sie haben diskutiert, ob es vielleicht sinnvoll wäre, ihn nach einer Freilassung nach Südnigeria zu bringen, in eine sichere Unterkunft, und sind aber inzwischen, gehen sie davon aus, dass das bei der Popularität des Falles auch nicht die Sicherheit bringt, die man sich wünscht, weil eben seine Verfolger auch nach Südnigeria problemlos kommen können und ihn auch dort finden und töten können, wenn sie das wollen. Also diese Morddrohungen sind so manifest und so zahlreich, dass man auch in Südnigeria nicht sagen kann, dass Mubarak Bala sicher ist. Das heißt, Asyl ist definitiv für Mubarak Bala eine Option und sollte auch diskutiert werden. Gleichzeitig insistiert Leo eben darauf, er legt großen Wert darauf, dass man Atheisten gleichzeitig in Nigeria sicherer stellen muss, dass man alles tun muss, dass künftig Atheisten nicht Mubarak Balas Schicksal erleiden. Und dazu gehört dann vor allem auch die Repräsentation, dass man in der Europäischen Union, in der Afrikanischen Union dafür sorgt, dass dort nicht nur Christen und Muslime angesprochen werden, wenn immer es um Repräsentation geht, sondern dass man auch dafür sorgt, dass man hier die Atheisten mit in die Repräsentation hineinnimmt, als politische Gegenüber ernst nimmt und dadurch auch einfordert, sie in der politischen Landschaft anerkennt als eine Gruppe.
Yeah, and to that point, last point, Leo, with the representatives of atheists and a political public discussion. That's very interesting because this doesn't also happen in Germany, because there's always from the religions, you know, Germany a bit, so there is none, yeah? And atheism is something like, oh, that's the dirty people. So yeah, but we can work together with that to support us, each other, trying to do so. We're working on that, and there's some organizations, wouldn't say many, to do so. Another thing which came into my mind is pop culture, because the thing is, young people now have smartphones. They grew up in a different world. They have different forms of communicating to look out into the world. And I think pop culture can help us a lot. Maybe that's the way, you know, there's these young YouTubers, there is maybe musicians, artists, any kind. Maybe that's the way to approach them, because it's also a peaceful way. It's to show, hey, it's fun.
Yeah,
because they don't have nice young singers praying for whatever they pray for, and yeah, maybe that's the way.
Yeah. I think that, yeah. But you see, we also, you see, I think that it is something that we eventually gonna explore. But we have to send a message that you know, when you venture into it, you will be alive. You know, so what I'm yeah, so it will happen eventually, but because we are going through a process, yes. Right now, the discussion, you know, there's a discussion going around in Nigeria on the social media, and people are beginning to ask questions and say, hey, is that all? Is that, you know, just somebody made a post? Some people have said those things repeatedly online and said, okay, come and arrest me, you know? So there's a process, there's a kind of a transition going on. And I hope that it will get to the point where people could, you know, actually use what is happening today, becomes a form of comedy, you know, sometime in the future, and people laugh it off. Yeah, so I think it's a process. It's on the line coming, but I don't know how soon, you know, it's gonna come. Yeah.
There's another question. Does it make sense to contact Nigerian embassies? Someone wrote an email to the Nigerian embassy in Germany. They answered that they would look into the matter of Bala's case, but they didn't get back to the person after that. So someone wrote to the embassy, but they stalled.
Yeah, yeah. You see, the thing is that those embassies are staffed by Nigerians mainly, okay, or Nigerians are in charge. And there are two interests they respect in Nigeria, depending on who is the president. That is Christian or Islamic interest. No other interest matters. Now, it is a Muslim that is the president. So the interest tilts towards respecting anything Islam. Yes, and that is exactly why they're doing what they're doing in Kano. Because there aren't voices within the government that could really speak out on the side of Bala, because it is a Christian president in a Christian state, Kano, and which implements Sharia. That's why there is silence. Even the police inspector general, sorry, I made a mistake. It is a Muslim president. Sorry, it was a mistake. It's a Muslim president. Yeah, Muslim president, and in a Muslim-dominated state that implements Sharia. Okay, so even the inspector general, the police head, is also a Muslim. So when we have that kind of arrangement, the embassies can only take up issues if there is that connection with the home government that this issue will be attended to, and they understand the dynamics and how they work. Okay, so I won't be surprised if the Nigerian embassy won't do anything, but that should not stop people from publicizing the fact that they have informed these people. Sometimes put the letters out there, you know, because a lot of people will be reading. Not only the embassy officials, but also people in Nigeria will be reading. So don't just make these letters private, make them public, because that is the only way to build pressure on these governments and institutions.
Ja.
Okay, ich übersetze kurz. Also in Nigeria gibt es ein Präsidialsystem, in dem immer ein Präsident Muslim ist und danach der nächste Präsident Christ, dann der nächste wieder Muslim und so weiter. Und die Botschaften hängen sehr stark von diesen Präsidenten ab, und deshalb werden sie eben nichts tun, was diese christlichen Communities in Frage stellt oder was eben die islamischen Belange angreift. Im Moment ist es eben ein Muslim, Bukhari, und deshalb wird von Seiten der Botschaft aus nichts versucht werden, was die Autorität des Präsidenten angreift, dahingehend, dass die islamischen Belange da berührt werden. Das heißt, die nigerianische Botschaft wird von sich aus im Moment nichts machen, und das soll aber niemanden davon abhalten, trotzdem an die nigerianische Botschaft zu schreiben und dort Druck zu machen. Nur, und das fügt Leo hinzu, muss man diese Briefe auch öffentlich machen, damit es wirkt. Also erst wenn dieser Druck öffentlich wirkt, wenn man diese Briefe als offene Briefe schreibt zum Beispiel, dann wird dieser Druck fühlbar werden auf die nigerianische Botschaft, weil dann eben nicht ein nigerianischer Botschafter den Kopf hinhalten muss und zum Präsidenten gehen und sagen muss, hier, wir haben ein Problem, sondern weil dann über diese ganzen anderen Kanäle dieser Druck an also vermittelt wie ein Puffer an die Regierung herangetragen wird. Die Moment, das muss ich hinzufügen, übrigens sehr schwach ist. Leo, the actual government, Buhari, it is very weak as far as I hear. Even in the own Islamic community in Nigeria itself, there is rumor, as far as I heard, that Buhari might even be dead, or you don't recognize the difference if he's dead or alive. But that does not maybe count for all parts of the government. I don't know. It was also a question, to what extent is a Nigerian state institution functional, or how do we have to expect that they are totally non-functional and that Buhari does not have any means of assistance through state or government institutions?
Well, I don't think Buhari's government is not functional. The fact there is that we have a federal system. Okay, I think Germany has something like that, but not. Yeah. Let's not compare Nigeria and Germany this time, please. Please don't. So we have the states, they have the powers. So, for instance, Mubarak is in Kano State. Kano has a governor, and whom we know is pro-Islam. Okay, so now, and Buhari is at the center, and Buhari also has this impression that he is also pro-Islam. Okay. Yeah, because the battle in Nigeria is that who controls the center? Is it a Christian or is it Muslim? Now, when it is a Muslim, they get away with so much in terms of killings, oppressions, and all that. Even when it is a Christian, there's also that fear, and people try to appease the Muslims. So I'm not saying that, oh, if he's a Christian today, they may not arrest Mubarak, but it may be, if he's a Christian that has a lot of power, like Obasanjo, the president, if he says that they should release him, he will go out of his way to make sure that he gets to the root of the matter. But the president we have now is a president who allows his supporters and allies to do their wishes, as long as that does not threaten his position as a president. Yes, you can say he is weak, but at the end of the day, the people he appointed or his supporters are calling the shots in different states and different parts of the country. So that all the problems we're experiencing is because he has given a free hand. He has refused to go against the people in these places, either the governors or the heads of parastatals, because for him, those people are apparently not posing a threat to what he has always longed to be, which is to answer the Nigerian president. And this is the only legacy he's going to leave behind, that he answered the Nigerian president, but he was never a Nigerian president.
Okay, so in general, he is weak, but the institutions who support him are not at all.
Yeah,
and they are still dangerous and carrying this whole system. Okay,
yes, that's exactly what is going on. Like now, there's a governor in Kano State who can actually order the release of Mubarak. Okay, but we know him; he is a pro-Islam governor. Okay, so he will not do it. And Buhari will not care, because that is a kind of a protege. That's a kind of one of his supporters in the region. So he will allow him to do whatever he wants to do in the state, because he's a supporter of the president. So that's the kind of president we have. But if it were to be Biafra agitators, okay, in the south, he will send military to go and kill as many people as they can kill to stop it. But if it's happening in the north, he will be very slow at doing it because of his interests and the interests of his own supporters in the region who are benefiting in those problems. So that is it. So what we are having there is that, is it in the interest of the president? If it's in the interest of the president, he allows that to happen. He will not do anything. He appears to be weak. But if it has to do with, if you mention Biafra, Biafra agitation, the cessation of Biafra. If you mention that, he will wake up and he will now tell you that he is a strong president. But when it comes to Boko Haram, when it comes to kidnapping, when it comes to a case like this, he appears to be weak.
Mhm.
Ja, soll ich es noch übersetzen? Ja, also der Präsident ist zwar schwach, aber seine Unterstützer sind es nicht. Er sendet und er ist selbst auch sehr parteilich. Also im Norden wird er nichts tun gegen Boko Haram oder gegen diesen Gouverneur von Kano, der Mubarak Bala theoretisch freilassen könnte, aber es nicht tun wird. Während eben Buhari, also der Präsident, gleichzeitig gegen Biafra-Aktivisten im Süden, das sind Separatisten, das Militär schicken wird, um dort hart durchzugreifen. Also er erscheint auf der einen Seite schwach, aber er ist nicht real schwach. Also er agiert auch gegen seine Gegner durchaus mit Gewalt. Nur sieht er eben diesen Gouverneur in Kano und diese islamischen Belange nicht als Gegner, sondern eben als Unterstützer.
Mhm.
Dietmar, du wolltest was sagen? Ja.
Okay, I wanted to go back to another thing I saw in the chat. There is a little misunderstanding. Atheism is a reason for asylum in Germany, but it's not easy. The people who do the interview for the asylum are not lawyers or judges. They don't have any knowledge about law, and they decide by themselves or by numbers, whatever their reasons is. But later they can go to court and then they have to, let's say, prove their atheism, which would be the activism, but the activism actually is what can cause you
death. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is important also to highlight this, okay? And also, I understand the challenge. That's why I'm saying that while we appreciate the work going on in terms of trying to get asylum for atheists on the ground that atheists and the first persecution, we also have to think about how to make sure that the situation does not get to that point, that it cannot help us more. Yeah, because not all those who need asylum we get, okay, and it takes a lot of time to get some of this thing processed. And if you look at the situation, let's say in northern Nigeria alone, we are in the south, we are getting requests for people to come and live in the south, but we don't have the jobs for them. And we don't have the social security where we can be providing them with some money every month. So it is even a challenge to have them. We have a safe house in Abuja, but with what is going on now, we want to move that safe house to somewhere down south. But these things are not projects you just, execute overnight. You need to think, plan. It involves resources and all that. So what I'm trying to say there is that it's important to put this information there, so let people understand that it's not easy to get asylum as an atheist, even in Germany, okay? And so that we begin to look at other ways we can use to address the risks, dangers, and challenges to atheists and atheism, in all these places.
Ja. Danke. Also Asyl löst nicht alles. Sie haben teilweise auch Safe Houses, also sichere Häuser, Unterkünfte, aber dafür brauchen Sie eben Ressourcen. Und deshalb will er auch die Information verbreiten, dass eben Asyl nicht reicht, sondern man auch da in Nigeria Strukturen unterstützen muss, die in einer ersten Linie im Land helfen können, die beitragen können, diese Netzwerke zu stärken. Und dazu wollen wir heute natürlich auch beitragen. Es gab noch, there were two more questions from the audience. I will just list them. The one is, could you elaborate if one person asked if Sharia is actually in place, Sharia law in northern Nigeria, or if it does it have formal effects on the legal system in North Nigeria, or is it unofficially executed through mob violence, or ideologized particular judges? Yeah, if you could elaborate on that. And the other question is, if we could link the case of Mubarak Bala to the case of Hamid Abdel Samad, who was, I have to mention that, who was persecuted in Egypt, and especially after, and threatened in Germany, after he denounced Islam and criticized Islam, for example, as Islamic fascism, and he now lives under permanent protection inside Germany. So we can't even provide a secure space for atheists inside Germany, but also in Germany, a person has to fear lifelong police protection, which is very distressing and harmful, psychological harmful for the person, even in free Western states, as a result of Islamic response to atheism and blasphemy. Yes, these two questions.
Well, yes, you see, Islam is formally established in about 12 states, and these are Muslim majority states in the north, okay? But you see, the formal Islam has very limited influence. The much feared, or what I call, the formal Sharia. Sorry, I got it wrong. Sharia is formalized in 12 states. Sharia is adopted and implemented. We have Sharia courts, and of course they hear cases of course crime and other civil cases. But what is feared more in the north is the informal Sharia, which is being implemented, enforced, if I should use those words, by the mobs. Okay. So, and in fact, in the north, there is a battle between the formal and informal Sharia. And in most cases, the informal Sharia wins, because the mob is on the side of the informal Sharia. And those who implement formal Sharia are always afraid of the informal Sharia implementers. Now, because the formal Sharia, we have what they call the Sharia police. The government controls them, tells them what to do, sometimes try to stop them. But the informal Sharia police, the government fear them. And they try, in fact, dictate what the government does. For instance, at the moment now, they don't want to see Mubarak. The informal Sharia implementers don't want to see Mubarak. And so what they do is that they try to put him somewhere incommunicado to appease the informal Sharia police, which is the mob. So, but what happens is that, for how long are we going to live in this kind of situation? Yes. And for how long are we going to live our lives fearing the mob? Because you know what it is, the informal Sharia implementers are also product of the Islamic establishment in the north. So they know how the young people in that region are turned into Islamic lynch mob who try to enforce informally the Sharia, the Sharia laws. So, and it is important that we begin to have this discourse. Yes, because this is where, my issue with the Western audience comes in now. A lot of people in the West don't want to talk about Islam. They don't want to say things critical of Islam. Yeah, you guys have you have the army, You have the government, you have the power, you have the will to protect your own citizens. Okay? And you have also what it takes to kill, find out anybody that attacks you, like Felix, all of you, Philip. If anybody attacks you, your government has what it takes to go and fish the person out, even if the person is in Nigeria or in another planet, to get the person to face justice. Now, because of that, you can afford not to say anything about, say anything critical of Islam or the jihadists. But some of us live in a situation where our government actually, like we have said here, does not even care whether we are kidnapped by the informal Sharia implementers or by the formal Sharia police. So now, because you are in a position of power, you know, whatever you do, direct and dictate the pace of the world. So if you refrain from highlighting these issues, you are indirectly enabling the problem. Yes. I'm not trying to say, you know, there's this idea, I'm not trying to blame the West, you know, blame the West. But I want to say that in a world where we find ourselves today, where the West stands when it comes to an issue, has a way of influencing that very issue. And that if, for instance, European Union, as they have done, if they tell people in Kano, we are interested in this case, they will sit up. Okay? Good. So what I'm trying to say now, it is important that we begin to have this discussion, about how Islam goes about, Islamic religion is how it manifests in countries like Nigeria or Pakistan or Bangladesh, and how do they produce all these fanatics? I mean, others are producing astronauts, others are producing pilots. You keep producing jihadists generation after generation. What is wrong? This question has to be asked. You know why? Because somehow, somewhere, they also come to affect us, even if we live in the comfort of our countries in Germany or Australia or the United States.
Yeah, this is really a difficult path because the first step might be your last step. But as Rana and also Varut did, they, for example, went here in Germany, in Berlin, there is Jafar TV or Shabab Talk, it's called. And they spoke up openly. They were then already in Germany, but and couldn't go back anyway. So they were kind of safe. They needed a bit of a kind of a police protection for some time. But what happened then was it had a real big impact in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, and actually all Arabic-speaking countries. So they had the possibility to reach out to all of them. Maybe that could be a mechanism, someone who is safe and who does not have to protect someone who's still in the country, because that's always happening. If you have family and you're maybe safe in another country, you cannot speak up because your family
could be targeted.
So I think there must be a first mover, but that's my personal idea.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing this conference right now for more than 2 hours, and I think we can come to an end with this. So thank you very much, Leo, for this very deep insights, this comprehensive information. And I think we should continue with these discussions. Actually, it's good to have these video conferences and to figure out how to connect these things. Keep in mind, we are Germany-based and we can only work within Germany. We're not an international organization like Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch or the Red Cross. And we have very limited resources with that. But yes, we should continue to set up networks and communication and learn from each other, from what's happening. So, and also thank you, Felix. You're showing up your slides again. There is a donation page on the Better Place. It's a bit hidden on my screen. How does it show up in the in the YouTube channel? Trying to see if everyone can see it. Okay, yeah, it does. It is projects, betterplace.org/de/projects/82227. So /de/projects/82227. This is the donation page. And Ingo, Felix, how will this money be spent?
Okay. First of all, I also want to thank Leo for your daily risk, for taking daily risks for atheism in Nigeria, which to me is also atheism worldwide. You're fighting at the forefront of atheism, and what you do in Nigeria is also helping atheism in Germany. We often have the perspective of being at the front of something while and helping others that are running behind us. I think that is not the case what atheism concerns. We are in a stalled situation in Germany. Humanists and atheists are heavily experience heavy infighting and sometimes useless ideological battles. So I think Nigerian atheism is far more active or promising what its potential among youth concerns, and I think some resources spent on atheism in Europe might be better spent for spreading atheism in countries where a lot of people are young and are searching for answers and are easily outpowering the older generations, which are far more conservative, but at the same time, who are also pitched in a battle against the resources that Saudi Arabia and other Islamic states bring into the African continent, especially, but also to South America, to Indonesia, to win exactly the same youth over for the Islamic cause. So we have an intense battle going on in Africa, a fight for the youth. And I think the Western atheists should realize that this fight is going on at the moment every day, and that every day we are not going into this conflict and supporting African atheism, South American atheism, against this onslaught of resources, immense resources, billions from the Arab world, but also from American televangelicals, from evangelical preachers. Every day we don't go into there, we lose also. So my personal strategy at the moment is to leave European atheism as it is in groups, because the European population is very old. It won't matter anytime soon anymore. And where we urgently need resources is Africa. And there we should bring resources in to support atheism there, to give them any means they need to spread materials, leaflets, to create safe houses, to pay lawyers for defending themselves, for establishing a movement. So this is why we are also asking for donations, which will go 100% to Leo's organization. And we ourselves run a very small organization in Germany. We are also happy to link bigger organizations, once they really stepped up the cause, or once they are really dedicated to supporting humanism in sub-Saharan Africa, as humanism needs to be supported. Thank you very much also for your attendance, everybody, and also to the audience who was here with us today. I hope more people will see it on YouTube. Leo, you want to say one last word?
Okay, well, I think that thank you all who made this possible, and thank you for your support. I know you have other things, you know, that to do with your time, but you decided to be with us here today. You decided to devote this particular time to listening to the challenges we face. And I appreciate this level of cooperation. And we are hoping that we can work together to address this problem and make sure that it does not, get worsened. It does not get to a situation where it becomes a global issue. I think that part of the challenges we are facing is that sometimes we allow things to fester. We allow problems to fester when they're in the local range. And now they become a global issue. We start wondering, like when we're talking about terrorism or talking about all these issues about Islamic terrorism and all that, is because for some time we saw this coming up, but we just looked away. So what was going on in northern Nigeria is not just local, it's international. We can see the connection, like you said, with what's going on in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in Indonesia, even right there in Germany. So let us not just think that it's a distant problem, it's our problem. And I think that if we can all connect, as we have done here today, and rally together, we can find creative ways of leaving a legacy for the coming generations. Remember, some people are going to come and say, what did you do? They didn't ask you, okay, oh yeah, is it Nigerian, or is it German, or is it white, is it black? Or they will ask you, what did you do? You know, and all that. And they will look at it and say, yeah, that we really underutilized our resources that we had. So let it not be said of that. So that is why I will say, let us all work together as we are connected today to see how we can leave a better legacy, not just for atheism, but also for humanity at large.
So thank you very much. And
thank you very much, Leo.
This will be the end of the stream. Bye, Leo. Bye, Felix.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.